curriculum to open our eyes to what it was, that these chemicals were not made to help us, they can hurt us. And, all these years later, we see they're linked to so many diseases and, chronic hair loss and things of that nature. So it's become my life's mission to really change the world one crown at a time, like really helping women understand that it is an option.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So what about you, Khadija? How did you get into natural hair?
Well, for me, I'm extremely tender-headed. I hated when people used to do my hair. I remember one style, it took like 5 people to do my hair because I was just crying and they couldn't take it anymore. Still to this day, I'm tender-headed. So shout out to all my tender-headed people. But I taught myself how to braid when I was 12, playing in my cousin's hair. I just had a feeling that that's something that I always wanted to do. After I graduated high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I signed up for, well, I didn't really sign up, but I wanted to go to school for criminal justice. But I just didn't feel like that was for me. It's crazy when Natural Trendsetters first opened up. My mom used to work there, and I was one of the hair babies running around in the salon. And my mom went and got her hair done, and she told me that they were hiring. I was super nervous because I'm extremely shy, but being there, it kind of made me open up out of my shell. So they interviewed me, and I remember Simone telling me she wasn't sure if I was ready because I was just so like stiff, laid back and not really interacting with people. But now it's crazy. I've been doing hair for 12 years. Now I'm working on my own. I actually signed up for school for criminal justice, so it's crazy hearing the stories of just going out on your own and trying something different. So yeah, I'm proud of the woman that I am today.
Thank you. And what about you, Ronique?
Well, I didn't get into it professionally. My background is in economics. I have a degree in finance, and I'm in insurance. That's what I do. But for me, growing up, I've always had thick hair, and my hair was relaxed when I was 5. So I only growing up knew my hair relaxed, and that was all I knew. And I could style it, and it thrived. But I didn't really love going to the hairdresser. That was something that I hated doing. And then when I graduated, well, originally I'm from the Caribbean. So when I had to go to university, I had to move to a different island and I'll be responsible for my own expenses. So I was like, I am not going to spend any money getting my hair done. Relax, I can't afford it. So I decided that I was just gonna go natural. So I shaved my head. So I had long, relaxed, brush strap length hair and just woke up and shaved my head. And then I remember graduation was like in 4 days. And I was like, what am I going to do? Luckily, I had this friend that could braid, even if you had no hair on your head. And she gave me some braids. So I went in with a bob. But then by the time I went to university, my mom, she actually braided my hair for me. And my hair lasted about 3 weeks and I started looking fuzzy and I was like, oh my God, how am I gonna go to class? And I stayed up the entire night teaching myself to braid my my hair. And just from then, I was able to manage my natural hair. And for me, it came very easily in Barbados because I think the water there, it made my hair more manageable. And then when I graduated and I moved back to my island, I could not manage my hair. I don't know if it was the change in the water, and I couldn't manage it. And I had this friend, she kept saying to me, oh, you need to texturize your hair. And I was like, why don't you spend 3 years growing out your hair and then texturize it to see how it looks? Because I really didn't want to go back to the chemical route, but I had so much trouble managing the hair that I would be late for work every single day. And at that time, I was a teacher. I was teaching economics, and I was just late. And one day, I showed up early and there was nobody in the class. And I was so mad with students. And they're like, but miss, you're never here. So why should we come? And I was like, okay, I need to do something. So I went and I got it texturized. And I guess because of the texture of my hair, it didn't take. So the only thing texturizer did was just make it weaker, but it looked exactly the same. So it was even harder to manage. So I went back to the hairdresser and I said, okay, well, I need it straight. But she didn't tell me that you can't mix a relax and a texturizer. She just put the relax on my hair. I mean, she's a professional. And my hair just fell out,
Mhm.
broke straight down to the root. I had to shave my head again. So at that time, I was like, you know what? Let me just learn more about hair care. So my hair started to grow out. It took a very long time to grow out. I think probably because of the damage that had been done with the chemicals. And then I decided I wasn't doing it successfully. I tried to relax my hair, but I guess because of what had been done, my scalp just rejected the relaxer. So I felt like I became allergic to it. So at that point, I knew I had to be natural. For years, I just tied my hair down and just wore it under a wrap every single day. And then one day my husband was like, please do something about your hair. you never you never want to get to the point where your husband tells you, just please do something. So I looked at my cousin. She had just cut off her locks and she had natural hair and she was thriving with it. And I was like, what are you doing? And she was like, oh, go to YouTube. So at that time, that was 2009, YouTube was just getting started. And, I started to really learn about hair. And for me, a lot of things came naturally in terms of just learning how to treat your hair properly, like Simone is saying, and taking care of it the natural way. And so since then, I've just been, well, I like to experiment, but I've been using just natural herbs, putting them in my hair and using that as conditioner. And my hair has been thriving. And for me, it's so manageable and so easy. And I feel so terrible whenever I see somebody that says to me, oh, I just can't manage and I just want to help them. So that's why I started the Easy Natural beauty brand, because having natural hair can be easy. And I think that's a message that we need to get out there.
So you mentioned like you did a big chop twice, or not.
Actually, 3 times.
Most women don't want to do that. So do you have any recommendations for someone to go from straight hair to natural hair without doing like a big chop?
Right. And actually, I tried to go natural several times before I did the final shave when I was 18. I actually used to transition, but then once your hair starts to grow out and it gets to a certain length, it's so unmanageable. So if you're transitioning and you don't want to just shave your head, which for me is like so easy because then you don't have to deal with it. But what I found is if you use things like a Jerry curl gel, that would give your roots a lot of the moisture that it needs, and it would allow you to be able to style your hair. Also, you would want to, when you dry your hair, make sure you stretch the roots because it's important for your textures to match. So if you stretch the roots when your hair is wet and you're drying it, you could use a blow dryer or you could use other techniques like threading that will help you maintain more of a one texture if you're growing out and transitioning. If you want to wear it in a curly style, I usually tell people if they're transitioning, don't do twist outs. Twist outs are for people who have natural hair. You'd have to do a braid out because the braid will give you more of a texture and you'll be able to match it better. So those are what I would recommend for people who are transitioning.
Okay, thanks. Simone, would you like to weigh in on that?
Um, a lot of people don't like to chop, but the chop is the quickest way to get to healthy hair. And it's a big change. And a lot of people don't love change. So I recommend that the easiest thing is just to stop relaxing your hair, right? And the way you get through that is either with braids or something like she said to make it match. When they just start in, a lot of my clients, I flat iron their hair to make the root match the end. But it's always going to get to a point where there's so much natural, and the thing that happens with the chemical treated hair as it grows out, at that line of demarcation where the natural is with the chemically treated, it's going to pop. So if it's like a rope. If you hold a rope and pop it like this, the ends are going to be jagged. If you cut it, it's going to be clean and it's going to be able to just grow out. So you think you're saving yourself by not chopping it off, but it's going to break off naturally. So you have to do things that gives you the least manipulation. So you're not getting that popping going on. So any protective styles help. Braid outs, like she said, anything that's you're not going to have to comb it much, because the more you comb it, the more it's going to shed. But if you need to just get it to a place where you're comfortable, you're always going to have to chop at some time. You can trim, but you're actually chopping. But even once you get to the natural, if it popped at the natural and the ends aren't healthy, you're gonna have to cut it again. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna have to still get a trim. So there's the gradual way is cool, but the chop is better.
Yeah, just don't be afraid of short hair.
Yeah. But I tell people, we're not going to change your face. You're beautiful. You know what I mean? And you just got to own it. It's definitely a change. But once you own it, it's like the first time I big chopped my hair, I was so scared. I was like, I look like my brother. I cannot walk around like this. And when I said, well, I just got to, I got to put on some earrings. I got to like do my face, look cute. When you believe you cute, everybody else is going to believe you cute too. I promise.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so let's move on to locks. So, and maybe I'll go to Khadijah. What are some of the misconceptions like surrounding locks? Like, what are some of the things that people, in terms of hair care?
Well, I would say for locks, you can start at any time, whether you have an inch of hair, whether you have 10 inches, you've been growing your hair for like 10 years. But it all depends on what you would want and the outcome that you would want for your locks. So when you originally start locks, it's not going to be exactly how you want it. So everybody call it the ugly stage, but it's like the most precious stage because you get to see how your hair gets to the point where you really want it to get. Like, let me see.
So I'm gonna ask actually something specific. That's a good question. Like a lot of people are afraid of that like ugly stage.
Mhm.
And so is there a better way to start your locks? Because some people prefer to do like the faux locks and then cut those off. Like what would you recommend in that case?
Well, if you already have locks and you don't want to go through that ugly stage, I would say you can do the faux locks just to get a feel of the outcome that you will get. But yeah, you can do whatever you would like to do. I wouldn't say don't do the faux locks. It just depends on your preference.
Okay.
Can I say something about that?
Yes.
There's so many ways of locking now. Okay. Anybody who's like researching this, there's like all these techniques. You got the faux locks, you have the crochet method, you have interlock, you have sister locks, you have conventional locks. And I think the big misconception about locks is this overnight satisfaction, right? And, crochet and interlock and sister locks, it's a process of locking your hair by hand. Okay, well, we go in and we lock it. So now you don't have to worry about it frizzing out. You don't have to worry about it coming out. So that's like an easy way. It's like the microwave way, right? But the whole idea around locks is not combing your hair, right? So if you don't comb your hair, it will lock naturally. The beautiful thing about having a loctician is we give you a road to follow. We give your hair a road to follow. So if you just stop combing your hair tomorrow, it will lock, but they'll be all different sizes. They will look pretty like homeless situation where you just stop combing your hair. Now, if you have a loctician, we're going to give it a road. We can give you a certain size, your desired size, how many you want, how you want them to fall, things of that nature. But it's kind of like you can cook chicken in the microwave, but why would you? Like it's a quicker way to do it, but it don't taste better. Like, you know what I mean? So putting it in the oven and letting it marinate and the slow cooking and all of that, it's like conventional locks. You're going to get the most beautiful outcome with conventional locks. So your texture versus my texture versus her texture, all of our locks are like a fingerprint. Your locks are going to be true to your hair if you let it do what it do. But if I do it, it's just going to do what my hands can do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I
And
just had to say that. Sorry.
I just gonna add a note to that. So definitely, if you're going to start your locks, I would highly recommend going to a loctician.
Yes.
And there's a lot of YouTube videos out there, but in terms of like letting you know how to do basic hair care and so forth. So
Mm.
I'll give you an example. I did start my hair with a loctician. However, I had heard about interlocking, so I looked it up on YouTube, and then I saw that okay, this is the best way to like get it. I don't know, stay. And so I tried it on myself, and thankfully, not too far after, I went to Natural Trendsetters, which is where I go,
Mhm.
and Khadijah looked at my head and she was like, "What did you do?" She was like, "You're making roads into your locks. Like, do not do that." And so she undid it for me, thankfully. But just a note, don't try crazy things on your hair. Let
Yeah.
your loctician show you how to do things. So yeah. So let's move on. I want to talk about dyeing your hair. So Ronique, what are some of the ways? Because sometimes, like, we want to dye our natural hair, but we're afraid that it will dry out, that it will damage it. Like, do you have any tips or anything like that?
First thing I'm gonna say is if you're gonna dye your hair, it is a chemical and it will damage your hair. But you can do things to minimize it. You have to keep it moisturized. You definitely have to do more frequent deep conditionings. I mean, I think if you have natural hair, you should be deep conditioning your hair regularly, at minimum once every month. But if you dye your hair, bleach it, or just, well, I would recommend if you're dyeing your hair, you bleach it first and then put the color on it instead of using a box color. And I would say go to a professional, because if you don't go to a professional, then you could end up ruining your curl pattern and things like that. So I would say definitely go to a professional, have it lifted professionally, and then you can apply whatever color you would like. And then every time you wash it, you should deep condition it, because moisture is so necessary to your hair not breaking. And once you've bleached your hair, you essentially leached out the color out of the core of your hair. So your hair is weaker. So you're going to have to take greater care of it. And that's just the reality. So some people, if you don't like the color of your hair or you just feel bored with it, it's fine. But just understand that that color is a chemical and it will give you damage. But fortunately, these days, there are a lot of these temporary waxes that you can do if you just want to experiment with color and just have no damage.
All right. Would any one of you like to weigh in on that question?
Okay.
I would say don't bleach over what you've already bleached. While I was working at Natural Trendsetters, I always had this patch, and it would always be a different color anytime anybody would see me. But where I messed up, I wanted it super light. I wanted my color to be vibrant, so I would go over it with bleach. And I knew better. I went through cosmetology school, and they told us the same thing, but I wanted it to be bright. So in the end, right before I started my locks, because I had locks for a year and then I cut it off, I went through a lot of phases with my hair, but I ended up bleaching it with 50 volume, which technically doesn't exist because you won't get up to that level until you damage it. So my entire patch ended up falling off. So I had a short piece of fro and then a big fro. So I just started my locks and cut it off, and now I'm back to my full fro, no color.
So it's definitely a chemical, and what chemicals do is they alter your hair.
Mhm.
They change your hair from its natural state, and that's the difference between being natural and using chemicals. Now, color can be administered properly, And like she said, treating it more is going to help to strengthen it. You got to know what you're doing when you're getting into it. And you need to have a professional. It's so crazy because as Black women, like, we just feel like we can do everything. And we can, but we don't have to. You know what I mean? Like every other culture goes and gets these things done. Like I need a me day, I need a pampering day. I want to feel beautiful. Like we need that. But I think there's so much trauma based around our hair. One of the things that I found with opening a natural salon was a lot of Black women did not trust cosmetologists because with the whole relaxer movement, we were victims of that. They made us feel like we had to have it, or we weren't beautiful. Then we ran to get these chemicals from professionals, paid good money, and our hair still was not thriving. Because relaxer is cool if it's administered properly, but one bad relaxer, one over process, you cannot turn back from it. And as a cosmetologist, you try to do your best by your client's hair, right? But when they get to this point where they have to have their hair straight, soon as those curls start growing out, it's growing out a half an inch, you're running back to get a relaxer, right? It's not humanly possible not to overlap the chemical. That's what Khadijah was talking about. Don't bleach your hair twice. Like if you don't get to your desired color the first time, when you go back to bleach again, you're bleaching on top of already compromised hair. So with relaxers, I do relaxers every 8 to 10 weeks, 12 if I could push it, right? Because I want to see enough new growth for me to physically lay it on without overlapping to that last relaxer. So now, even if a little smidgen gets on that other relaxed part, it weakens that hair. So you know how they say a chain is as strong as its weakest link? So wherever those weak links are, it's gonna break. So if we just understand the chemistry behind what we are doing to ourselves, I think we can go further, So
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm getting a little long-winded.
Thank you for that. So one last question, and I'll take any questions from you guys. So let's talk about hair washing, because I know there's a lot of misconceptions with that. How long should you wash your, I'm sorry, how often should you wash your natural hair and do your locks? And
right.
you can take it.
So everybody's different. You know how everybody's skin is different? You have oily, dry. Everybody's hair is different. You know what I mean? Straighter hair would be called oily. It produces a lot of oil. Kinkier hair produces less oil. It's drier, right? So drier hair, you don't have to wash it as often because you're not getting oil buildup. And the more you shampoo, you're drying it out more, especially if you're not using sulfate-free shampoo. Now, if your hair gets oily and it's heavy and weighed down and you can't do anything, you need to wash it more often. Hence, a lot of straight hair people can wash their hair every day. And maybe a kinky hair person might wash their hair once a month. But then you got all the thousands of people in between, So some people wash their hair every week. And some people think I have to wash my hair every week because my scalp gets crazy. But if your scalp is flaking, it's probably because it's dry. So the more you shampooing it, you're adding to the dryness. Even though you're getting relief, you're drying it out more, And then someone who takes too long and they got a whole bunch of buildup in the hair, especially your locks, you don't want buildup in your locks because then it's locked in. So everybody's time is different and you have to try it. So sometimes if you're always used to washing it once a week, go 2 weeks and see what happens, if you want to manipulate your hair less. If you're finding that your hair is shedding a lot whenever you comb it, try to go a little longer so that you don't have to manipulate it as much. Does that make sense?
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that. So let's go to the audience. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, over here.
Hi, my name is Kimari. I did my big chop probably like my 6th grade year in middle school, and I've had breakage, and I got to a point where my hair was finally like growing, but then I feel like I've reached a plateau. like my hair is not growing and it's just staying the same length, but it's not, well, I can't say it's not breaking, but I haven't seen any like changes in a long time.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is like my passion. Like, I love this stuff, okay? So everybody says, why doesn't my hair grow, right? Our hair is constantly growing. If it's not growing, then we have bald spots, right? So your hair is growing, but it's breaking at the same time. So you have to really look at your hair regimen and kind of change your hair regimen to try to see how you can retain growth, right? Then if you're not getting trims, you're gonna have those split ends and breakage as well. So people say, oh my gosh, yeah, right, you cut my hair, it's gonna grow. But when we clean your ends up, it's allowed to stay on your head long. So it's not about growing hair, it's about keeping your hair on your head longer. So maybe incorporating protective styles and stuff like that. The reason people with locks hair grows so long and beautiful is because we're not combing it. Combing is not really made for kinky texture. It breaks really easily. So that's where finger detangling and, you got to comb it, you know what I mean? But the least combing, the better, because it'll break.
Right, thank
Anybody
you.
else?
I'd just like to add to that. So, I had that problem as well, and it was the manipulation.
Mhm.
So because I used to watch a lot of YouTube videos, and they always have, these fancy brushes and tangle teaser, and I just eliminated all those brushes out of my regimen, and I just use my fingers. I use a comb maybe 3 times a year, maybe, sometimes two.
Mhm.
I only use it if my hair feels really tangled, and my hair only feels really tangled if I do like a blowout style. If I just do a twist out and then I immediately every night just put it in big braids, it doesn't get tangled. I can go to wash day. So you have to really look at, make sure you don't go to bed with your hair open.
Mhm.
Try not to, as she said, do protective styling, although I can't really say I do protective styling like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, you have to stretch your hair as well. You stretch it by when you wash it, you make sure you braid it, and then you style it. You style the stretched hair.
Mhm.
All right,
And
thank you. Now, I think we're out of time,
I wanted to
but
add
I'm gonna
on.
like to leave you
Oh.
finish off and then, because we're standing between them and lunch, so, but you can go.
Normally my my theory on how to look at your hair, look at it as a plant. You don't take care of the plant at the leaves and stuff. You have to take care of it at the root. So whatever you're doing to your scalp depends on the outcome of your hair.
All right, I like
Good
that.
job.
All right, guys. So thank you so much. And we do have a couple things to raffle off. I don't know if we are going to, maybe we can, yeah, if we have a couple minutes, or you should do it after lunch. Okay, so we'll do it after lunch. We'll do the raffle, and I'll let our MC come back and finish us up.
All right.